So, AI. AI is a hot button topic here on YouTube and on the internet in general, and not without reason. If you guys know anything about me, you probably already know my opinion on AI, and I have a feeling I know most of your opinions too, because generally speaking, a lot of people don't love generative AI. But, despite the cringe of much of the AI content sphere, what about Dungeons and Dragons and AI? What if AI could fulfill my dream? Could I finally play D&D without having to speak to another human being? Can I finally play D&D without somebody telling me, "Hey dude, that succubus cat-girl hybrid with booba balloonas the size of Texas, that's kind of weird, man, can you stop? Will my dream finally be accomplished?" Yeah, not my dream to say the least, but yeah, even for people like that, I think their dream is gonna need to be put on hold because, like the title said, AI-generated D&D, kinda sucks. To the surprise of, well, probably almost no one, but I want to talk about the different ways AI can be used in D&D and why the vast
1 hour later.
vast majority of it does not work. Without further ado, guys, let's get started. Alright, for starters, let's talk about that thing I brought up in the intro, 100% AI-generated D&D. An AI replacing the Dungeon Master so that you can play D&D without having to talk to anybody. Well, I tried it, and I was actually extremely impressed. Like, the AI kind of blew me away for one specific reason. I gave it the resources I thought it needed to run Curse of Strahd, copy-pasting a bunch of text and giving it to the AI, basically just force-feeding it Curse of Strahd material and telling it, hey, can you run the first session of this? And the AI blew me away by immediately giving me advice on how I, the human, could run the first session of a Curse of Strahd game. And come on, guys. That's really funny. Like, even ChatGPT knew this was a bad freaking idea. The advice, by the way, was not really good, but the fact the AI seemingly didn't even want to run the game is pretty funny to me. I tailored my prompt to be a little bit more blunt and told the AI to just run the damn game, essentially. And it attempted to do so, seemingly against its will. And I have to say, this is going to be a running theme throughout this entire video. But I quickly noticed that AI has a tendency to take the path of least resistance. Humans do the same thing, but the AI takes, like, the most least resistance path you can possibly imagine. When it gets down to it, the notes that provided me for the first session of D&D were very, very, very bare bones. If you're playing this as a sort of solo D&D game with the AI as your well and true dungeon master, you could very much have this session done in upwards of maybe 30 minutes, maybe more than that if you really take combat and roll with it for a long time. But dude, we'll talk about combat in a moment. Good freaking lord, we'll talk about combat. But yeah, just structuring the session, the AI is definitely railroading as expected. It's giving you very, very few options and just structuring out an entire first session with scenes and transitions between the scenes and everything. It is a very, very, very bare bones module, and that is being very, very, very generous with its abilities. I will say that the general structure is definitely there. I asked it to run the first session of a Curse of Strahd game with the resources I provided for what I think is necessary for the first session of a Curse of Strahd game, and it did a job with it. I'd give it like a 3 out of 10. You can get around the problems with the bare bones notes by copy pasting it into the AI again and telling it to expand upon the information. And it'll do that, but oftentimes when you do that, it expands by doing the same thing a high schooler does when it needs the essay to have more words. It's just more fluff. It's not giving you any more substance. In fact, even at a baseline, when I just generated it the first time and it gave me those bare bones notes, a lot of the words it gave were superfluous. Again, I could have pared it down to very few bullet points, maybe under a page of note. Now, that's just the structure of the session itself. What about the structure of combat? Because that's what I was most curious about. I was wondering how AI could do combat. Good lord. I'm listening to this music just to keep myself awake. I don't love text-based role-playing, especially text-based role-playing combat, and I really, really don't love Theater of the Mind, which is obviously what I'm playing right now. This combat is not like Baldur's Gate 3. Like, some people talk about AI-generated D&D like it's gonna be Baldur's Gate 3, but more freeform, and let me tell you, no, that's not what this is. It is 20 times more boring and way more unplayable. When I gave it a stat block to work with, it was a little better, but the AI is not doing any sort of strategy. Like, it's Baldur's Gate 3 with the dumbest enemy AI you could possibly imagine in the world, with none of the visuals and none of the fun. Like, this is just not it. And on top of that, you have to type everything, which there's a lot of dudes like me who are just not going to want to do that. I gave the roleplay and the structure like a 3 out of 10 just because I thought it would be a lot worse, but this is worse than I ever could have imagined. This is a 1 out of 10. Look, I don't think most people expected 100% AI D&D to be fun. Like, even tech guys will say stuff like, oh, well, we're just not there yet, but just wait until the future. Like, the revolution is always just one day away, right? But look, I'm looking at this right now, and right now, we are not playing with AI Dungeon Masters anytime soon. So, what about something like AI-assisted D&D? Like a human Dungeon Master using AI to help them to come up with magic items or something like that. Well, okay, there's a bit more to work with there, but not much more. Let's go. Before I even started experimenting with AI Dungeons & Dragons and just doing all this on my computer and taking all my notes and stuff, I actually did use some AI for my D&D games, and that's what this point's gonna be about. AI for convenience. I know that's like a really vague point, but like, you'll see what I'm talking about. I'm talking about using AI as a sort of more enhanced Google. Like, if I need 20 elf names based on Tolkien's Legendarium and the Elves of Rivendell, then looking that up on ChatGPT is slightly faster than looking that up on Google. And genuinely speaking, that's kind of useful. Like, even if the AI is making up some of these names, I mean, just from my layman perspective, not knowing Tolkien's elf language, I will say that it sounds about right to me, and so I'm going to take it. These are small little things that I may or may not use in my sessions. Supplementary materials. The AI can work that kind of thing. Also, if you need it for, I don't know, cleaning up the punctuation on your notes, or cleaning up your bullet points so the order is a bit more sensible, the AI might help you with that too. I will say, I was trained as a copy editor, so I'm a lot more, like, on the ball when it comes to spotting the AI's mistakes there, and I do have my own style. Again, I'm gonna say this over and over again, but the AI has a lack of intentionality. It doesn't know you as a person, so what it sees as more efficient bullet points might be less efficient for you. I stopped using AI for this purpose a long time ago because it just really wore its usefulness. I've also used AI to come up with maybe superfluous materials for a dungeon, for example. Like, if I need a list of 30 alchemical ingredients for a puzzle, I don't want to write up that list by myself. It's going to take too long. So I just asked ChatGPT to do it. That's useful. I only did that like once, but still, it's useful. However, here's the big asterisk of this section. The asterisk is the alternate universe version of Crispy that didn't use ChatGPT at all. That version of Crispy probably ran a game that's just as good as the game that he ended up running. It didn't matter in the end. These are small, minute little things. Like, there are some times where those AI features are going to be useful, but like, how often are those times? These are just niche features that the vast majority of people are not going to notice. Hardly revolutionizing anything. And even the people who do use them, is it really enhancing their games all that much? I don't think so. Okay, so those are the small supplementary things, but what about big picture stuff, like coming up with whole NPCs or monsters or magic items just with the power of AI? Well, okay, I tried it. Hey, you know what's better than AI D&D? Pretty much anything, but also today's sponsor. This week's videos are sponsored by Hitpoint Press and their incredible Black Friday sales with some of the best deals I've ever seen on not just the Hitpoint Press site, but like any D&D site. If you don't know Hitpoint Press, they are the developers of some of the most creative campaign settings I've ever seen, from the adorable Humblewood to the horrifying Heckna. Look, I love a good Middle-earth ripoff or Azeroth clone, but that's not what Hitpoint Press is doing. Every single one of their books oozes with creativity and originality, and now you can get the books with giant discounts and possibly free shipping if you order enough of them. Hey, are you a fan of YouTubers like Pointy Hat and Dingo Doodles? Well, guess what? They have books on Hitpoint Press, and Dingo Doodles' Fool's Gold Adventure is on sale right now, so don't miss out. Hitpoint Press's Black Friday sales are not gonna last forever, so if you don't want some serious FOMO, head down to the link in the description so you can pick up the amazing products of Hitpoint Press. Thank you so much to Hitpoint Press for sponsoring today's video. As always, supporting our sponsors does support us, and without further ado, I'm gonna turn back into an animated rat so that we can get back to the video. Keep in mind, while we're doing this whole section about creating things with AI, every time I say something nice, there's like a giant asterisk. All right, we'll get to the asterisk at the end, but it's there. Just like keep it. I'm gonna start with monsters and magic items because I think the best part of ChatGPT is how it handles mechanics in D&D, not storytelling. We'll get to storytelling later. Even from a mechanical standpoint, though, this is painfully average. So I generated some magic items and I generated some monsters, and I found the most success when I gave it the most specific of prompts. The more walls you build around your AI, the better it's going to do. When you just let it run wild and try to be creative, it's gonna come up with something that, in my opinion, is kind of cringe. However, when you ask it to, for example, come up with a legendary magical item balanced around level 15, meant for an artificer based on Destiny 2's Golden Gun, like something very specific like that, it can do something serviceable. This Sunflare pistol that it ended up making me isn't a phenomenal magic item by any means. It's not blowing my mind with its creativity, but it did what I wanted it to do. This is absolutely based on the Golden Gun from Destiny. It has mechanics appropriate for that, and it's roughly balanced for level 15. I do think it's like a little bit weak, but there's something here you can work with. I didn't end up using this version of the item because it wasn't specifically tailored to my player's build, because teaching the AI about my player's build and then having it generate the item, that was a lot of effort, to the point where I was thinking to myself, I'm just gonna do this myself. And I did, and I ended up being really proud of the item. So yeah, there you go. But, you know, the AI tried. What about AI generated monsters? I used the same principle. Be very specific with what you want out of this monster. The more general, the worse. I tried AI generating a bunch of stat blocks based on some lore from my world. I gave the AI the lore, gave the AI some rough ideas, and it didn't do great. So again, I went back to being more specific, and it made me this tall boy based on the tall boys from Dishonored, and it's pretty good. It's definitely balanced for CR5. I think it's appropriate. I looked at some other CR5 monsters just to check, and I think that this would work. I actually think for my games this is a little weak, but again, the AI doesn't know that, and teaching it about how the game balance in my games work would be so much effort that at that point, just do it yourself. But in any case, the problem with this tall boy is the same problem I have with the Sunflare pistol. It's highly derivative and very boring. Like, this thing, at the core of it, just has a melee attack, a range attack, an AoE. There's barely any mechanics here to speak of. Like, seriously, everything here is C- at the very best. And again, that's with you giving it a lot of specific prompts that it can work with. If you let it just run wild, it's gonna suck. But those are mechanical. What about AI generating entire narratives? Well, oh boy. I think the worlds it comes up with on its own are serviceable. It does what I need a D&D world to have. At the baseline, it has problems. AI will almost always come up with some kind of conflict for the world. Like, for example, it came up with a world for one of my skits where the world was a bunch of floating islands that were broken apart, and there's a cult trying to bring them out of the sky, make them fall back down to the earth, which would obviously kill a lot of people. Like, that is a conflict for the world to be in. That is something that you can have your D&D party fight against. But again, the problem comes in with a lack of intentionality. There is no human behind this thinking of the end game of this world. The AI is throwing cool concepts at the wall and then loosely stringing them together to see what works. I found that when I asked the AI to expand upon ideas I had already written, it did a much better job. But again, that problem I brought up earlier, where the AI just feels like a high school student trying to expand out its essay, that problem came back. At the core of it, when you use AI to come up with stories, to be creative, it just isn't. It feels like a gorilla trying to do sign language. Like a gorilla can make the signs, just like how AI can put the words on the page and make a story. But it's just brute forcing. The gorilla is just making signs until it gets what it wants. Food, or like a belly rub, or something. I don't know what gorillas want, but the point is, it's doing that. The AI is throwing stuff at the wall until it gets something right. Just cool concept, hopefully it sticks. Even when I gave it lore to work with, lore I had already written thousands upon thousands of words of it, it still didn't feel very interesting to me. The stuff it created still felt bare bones and derivative. Like, I gave it the entire lore of Karakonos, all the districts, even gave it other NPCs that I had written for reference. And the AI couldn't even do, like, the barest minimum of having the word count of the NPCs it wrote match the word count of the NPCs I wrote. Like, seriously, it wrote, like, only 2 sentences. I got whole paragraphs for you, and you give me back 2 sentences, ChatGPT? What the heck? D-. I'm not trying to say it didn't come up with any neat ideas. Like, one guy was an explorer who wore a bunch of charms on his armor to protect him. It's a neat idea, but the AI didn't write why he's wearing those charms, what culture the charms came from, etc., etc., etc. It didn't think of those things. If I asked it, I guarantee it could, but the more you rely on AI, the more we run into the asterisks. It's time to talk about the asterisks. AI-generated D&D is just kind of cringe, dude. Like, I wrote other words in this video, but I kept on coming back to cringe, and I'm sorry. That's what AI-generated D&D makes me feel. This is cringe. It's embarrassing. Look, AI is a tool, all right? And I'm not just talking about generative AI. I'm talking about AI in general. AI's been around for decades, for forever. We use it in everything from our video games to our calculators. But generative AI, the way so many people use it, it's not a tool. It's not like the animators of Spider-Verse using AI to help them with vectors. At the end of the day, the AI isn't making Spider-Verse. It's the animators, the artists, the writers. It's people. Without the people, the AI can do nothing. And I could say the same thing with the generative AI too. But with generative AI, people aren't using it like a tool, like the animators and the artists behind Spider-Verse. They're using it as a crutch, as something to replace skill, passion, talent, creativity. The asterisk that I mentioned at the beginning of the video is that even if AI came up with a brilliant, amazing idea, wrote it all out, perfect for me to copy paste, it's not mine. I don't care about this. And you might be thinking to yourself, Crispy, you advocate for ripping off other stuff all the time. Ripping off is different. When I rip off Cyberpunk to create the 10th Tomb, I'm ripping off something because I love it. It's something I cherish and I love. I ripped it off and made it mine. AI doesn't do that. When I take stuff from AI, it does feel different. Yeah, I could take an AI's idea and redo it to be my own thing, but the core of it is still the AI's idea, and I'm sorry, man, that feels wrong. And you might be thinking, touchy-feely stuff, that doesn't matter. What about the facts of the situation? Bro, touchy-feely stuff? That's the core of, all storytelling, man. Sentimentality is the core of what makes great art. And that is all lost here. I'm not proud of these AI NPCs. Not like I'm proud of Yumi or Kalia, these beloved characters that I created. And yeah, they're based on stuff that I ripped off, But at the end of the day, I ripped those things off and made them mine because I love those things. I don't love ChatGPT. I don't give a crap about ChatGPT. The more you generate with AI, the more you lose what makes you the dungeon master. What makes this world, this game, yours. And frankly, if you want to rip stuff off, if you want to take someone else's NPCs and put them in your game, good frickin' lord, how many resources are there for you to use? This video is probably sponsored by one of them. And even though those resources are paid, so is ChatGPT. It costs $20 a month to use the good version, which, by the way, is what I'm using for all of this. Don't even get me started using the free version, because somehow it's even worse. Look, I read RPG horror stories for a living. I know people suck. But this is worse. This is so much worse. Yeah, nothing horrific is gonna happen if you play D&D with ChatGPT. Nothing horrific is gonna happen if you crutch on ChatGPT to run all your games, other than them being a little bit more flavorless. But nothing good is gonna happen either. I won't feel pride if my players fall in love with an AI-generated NPC. I won't. I'm just not. I feel pride because they love something that I created, that we created together. And yeah, that's touchy-feely stuff, but like I said, what the hell else is Dungeons & Dragons about, if not that? Hey, alright, that's it. Had a lot to talk about in this one. If you guys enjoyed, you might enjoy that RPG horror story series I mentioned. It's linked up in the cards. But before you go, please do leave a like on this one and subscribe to Crispy's Tavern so you don't miss any of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own tips or thoughts, you can go down in the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment, the touchy-feely stuff, to let me know at the end of the video. In essence, like, comment, subscribe. In essence, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell. In essence, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell. In essence, like, comment, subscribe. In essence, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time.